Welcome back to Read the Book First, the podcast where first we read a book and then we watch its movie. Sam is back this week to help me dive into the 2012 coming-of-age movie, The Perks of Being a Wallflower. Before we start the episode, I just wanted to let you guys know some content warnings. These content warnings will also be listed in the show notes, so check those out if you wish. We'll be discussing different themes and topics from the movie in this episode, such as mental crises, physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual assault, and drug use. So please be aware of those topics going into this, but it is a fantastic episode, and I hope you enjoy. Welcome back to the second part of the Perks of Being a Wallflower episodes. Sam has returned to talk about the 2012 movie with me. I enjoyed watching this movie so much.
So did I. I am excited to talk about this because I have so many thoughts, but it definitely was interesting to watch it because I don't think I read the book before I watched it for the first time in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
This was a completely different viewing experience.
Yeah, definitely. And so much of my memory of this movie is just Tumblr stills.
Same. It's just like pictures and all of that. I'm like, oh
Just
yeah.
very specific pictures and GIFs
Yeah.
of Tumblr. And then I'm like, oh yeah, this movie has so much more than just the Tumblr bits.
Yeah.
It has some content in it besides that.
And it's still a 90-minute-ish movie, so it
Yeah.
is like half of it is on Tumblr. But if you've never read the book or watched it, you're just
Yeah.
like, oh, aesthetic post, great.
I guess we can just jump right into it, and we can talk about the actors as they come up. That's what I tend to do instead
Amazing.
of just info dumping right at the beginning. The intro, first of all, I loved the title sequence of the going through the tunnels and of like the Pittsburgh, and it just sets the tone immediately. I
Yes.
feel like I really enjoyed that. And the song, Could It Be Any Calmer? Is that clearer? I can't read my handwriting. Great. By the Samples is playing, which is it's a good song for the vibe of it, but we see Logan Lerman playing our baby Charlie. I'm assuming you didn't listen to the Percy Jackson episodes I did with Amanda.
No.
Okay, well, as you might remember, Logan Lerman plays Percy Jackson in the horrid movie adaptation.
Yeah.
I love Logan Lerman.
You are okay.
I always have. Me and my two close friends from high school, Courtney and Mary Jane, have a group chat that we recently renamed, like in the last year, the Logan Lerman's Lovers. Like just randomly, we renamed that. Like we have always loved him, and he immediately, as Charlie, I was just like, oh yes, this is the reason I love Logan so much. But it starts with his voiceover, and like I didn't think about this when we were reading the book. That is, all letters, right?
Mhm.
I didn't think about how that would translate because in my head, I've seen the movie way more times than I read the book. And voiceover, because Sam, you're a movie fan, like
Yeah.
like has a movie club, etc.
I had 4 years going strong.
Yes, which I love.
Yeah.
But like voiceovers in movies are usually awful. Like it's
Yeah.
hard to do them well.
Mhm.
And then immediately when he starts doing the voiceover, I was like, oh no, is this gonna be bad? Or is my brain like just remembering the nostalgia of it being good? What do you think of the
I,
voiceover?
for myself, I actually had a lot of moments where I was like, wow, they cut that out from the book and then the scene would happen because it like will like kind of
Mm-hmm.
start, but then they like disperse it after the fact. So I actually had a lot of moments where I was like, oh, wait, no, this did actually happen in the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think they do a good job of not too much voiceover because it's so
Yeah.
easy to do too much voiceover.
It was definitely like the number one commentary from all like what I was looking at for people who were talking about differences in the books in the
Mm-hmm.
movie. And the one was that I mean, it makes sense. The entire book is just in letters form.
Mm-hmm.
It's singularly unreliable narrator telling it to us. And this book is like, or this movie is um not that way, or so
Mm-hmm.
like, really not received that way, at least for me.
Yeah.
It's very clear, I think. most people are like, I'm glad it wasn't all that narration at all.
Yeah.
It was like a lot more story. And
Hmm.
when there was narration, it usually just kind of decided like, oh, this is where the timeline is.
Yeah, yeah, I feel like the voiceover is less insight on Charlie's actual thoughts and more on what is happening, which is
Like,
the opposite.
yeah.
Yeah, and like moving time forward. But yeah,
Mhm.
so it starts with Logan Lerman as Charlie writing his letters. The first bit of the movie is just direct lines from the book,
Mhm.
just word for word. Because Chbosky, like we mentioned this in the last episode, he did write and direct this movie, so he's all over this, which like does not happen all the time. The authors get to write or have any
Should, yeah.
any effect on the movie. But and we kind of just see like Charlie's life, how like he is already just kind of like observing his family. Like he's not super like the main character, like he's not the main character of his family. And we see his parents and we see his sister and ponytail Derek,
So Derek,
which
cousin Greg.
I know cousin Greg, but I think the ponytail is just such a good touch to this Derek
Yeah.
character. It made me cackle when
It
I
has
saw
definitely
him.
brought like some levity to the situation,
Hmm.
which I think that is definitely like a choice between like if you're a movie lover or a book lover of this case,
Hmm.
because this is like a joke and they don't actually do half the story involving Ponytail Derek. So it ends up
Yes.
being that the character is comic
Yeah.
relief.
Yeah. And Charlie's going into his first day of school and he's just like immediately like an outcast, doesn't have anyone to sit with. His sister won't let him sit with him. His friend from last year, Susan, who's played by Julia Gardner, but like
Lots of fame,
l-
soon to be award-winning
yeah,
actors.
yeah, like a little tiny little baby, like just shocked me. I was like, wait, oh, it's that one girl. Like
Yeah.
what? Yeah. It's like a very fast-paced opening because within 5 minutes, we meet his family mostly. We see him being alone, and then we meet Patrick, like not even 5 minutes in.
It is
It's so
accelerating.
fast, which it needs to be because, it's a movie, not a book, right? I think
Yeah.
you can't have the slow opening like the book does. But we get introduced to Patrick, aka nothing, aka Patty Cakes in the shop class, and he's played by Ezra Miller, who so I was watching this. I didn't make Isaac. Isaac watched this movie with me, and he had never seen it before.
Really.
And he was like, every time Ezra, or every time I'm gonna say Patrick, because I don't want to say
Use
Ezra's
the
name
name.
much.
That's great. I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah. I'm like, okay, every time Patrick was on screen, Isaac was like laughing because I mean he is hilarious and like in the movie, but he's like, oh, I really like that character, da 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 da. And I was like sitting there, I was like, can't ruin this for him during the movie. And then when I was rewatching it today, and the with the commentary and Chbosky mentioned Ezra Miller's name, I was like, oh no. And I was like, mm-hmm, uh-huh.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so we like immediately, which like stings because Patrick in the movie is, I think Patrick is so good in the movie.
Yeah. It's so of the things that I definitely want to talk about is that
Yes.
even though he created this book and he made the movie Chbosky, I actually think that the casting is pretty off. For
Mm,
some of the characters. And so for me, obviously, so one of my favorite things about what we're gonna do here is talk my shit against Ezra Miller. I got
yes.
lots of shit. I fucking hate this
Yes.
person. He's a terrible person. He's a
Yes.
predator.
Hmm.
And it's he was like the perfect casting for the time, right? Like
Yes.
he was like very well known as the flamboyant gay
Hmm.
queer something around those lines
Hmm.
but for art movies.
Yes.
He wasn't, which is interesting that now he's been a DC character.
Hmm.
Um, Stay away from that, but very like my entire experience of watching this movie left me being like, can I remake this? I'm not really a big remake person, but
Yeah.
I would love a reset on the casting for a lot of people, in particular Patrick, because
Hmm.
I think that performance wise, if you didn't know anything like the Isaac experience, you'd
Hmm.
think that that was like the best character of the movie. And a little bit has to do with the fact that it was so clearly written as a character in the book. Like
Yeah.
Sam's impacted the most by the unreliable narrator
Mm-hmm.
book, whereas I think Patrick is like so clear and like
Yes.
direction and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And um Sam is one of my big casting problems. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's why it's such an amplified performance by the person playing Patrick. So it's sad because it's like, wow, that's like one of the best performances in the movie, but this
Yeah.
person's horrible, horrible, horrible.
It's one of those things because like Patrick, for me, in 2012, I think it's great casting for Patrick because it's before any of the horrible things have happened to our knowledge, right? And
Mhm.
even I looked at the timeline to make sure that nothing of that had happened or reported to be happened, you know? But now going back to it, it's like you can't like it's so bad that you can't separate it. And I don't think we should
Yeah.
always separate the art from the artist. Like I think that's a really flawed statement, right? If we're looking at it from the casting within like if we are in 2012, I think excellent. And I think great
I don't
performance.
know who it would have been otherwise.
Exactly. Like I can't think of
Unless it was an unknown, a little bit more age
Mhm.
appropriate actor.
Yeah.
I given the person I watched a lot of movies, you've said I'm a movie club, that's true. I
Yeah.
don't know who else I would have.
Yeah, because I think what could have gone wrong if they'd cast someone else in this alternate universe, we didn't have to deal with this actor. I feel like it would have been way more stereotypically like a gay boy character that was way more flamboyant in the way that like Hollywood, like especially back like, you know, 10 plus years ago, stuck to often. So I
Mhm.
think, in that way it might have been disservice to Patrick because he isn't the stereotypical Hollywood archetype, right? Like that's not the point of Patrick at all. So like it's just a really tough thing, but we can like clearly say we do not support that actor in any way.
No, and I would love it if they remade this movie so
Yeah.
that Patrick could have a great actor.
Hmm.
Sam could have an actor that actually makes sense. And yeah, I think Local Urban did a good job. It's just that he was way too old for the casting of this movie.
Yeah,
I went and looked at how old everybody was because
yeah,
like
they were
I
like 20 and 21.
yeah, the youngest person was 20, the oldest was 22 at the time.
Yeah.
So, and that was Watson. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that Logan was a great actor who did a great job, but I would have preferred a younger person.
Hmm.
But again, I don't have a critical like it could have been this person instead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am
Sam,
biased.
I could probably fan cast Sam, but the other
Oh
two,
yeah.
he
I am biased and I love Logan Lerman and I think
was a pretty good
he's
Charlie. Like I cannot deny.
I think he's the best. I mean, he's the best part of this whole movie for me. Like every time he's on screen, I loved it.
It's one of those things where it's like, I have a problem with casting. I would have really loved the direction being a little bit more true to the
Hmm.
book rather than Hollywoodifying the book.
Yeah.
Um, but also you run the risk of, well, if you do have a younger person, can they really carry every single element? Because this is a book that, or this is a movie adaptation that heavily relies on Charlie's reactions because you're not getting like inner
Hmm.
monologue. And so yeah, it's definitely a really great performance in order to like make this character make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also within 5 minutes of this movie, we also hear the F slur.
So yeah, it's the book. There's a lot
It's
of violence in the
yeah.
book, and it's
Hmm.
weird that they played up freshman hazing versus
Yes.
the actual violence in the book. They've
Uh-huh.
actually played a ton of the
Hmm.
violence, especially in the beginning. There's a Charlie gets in a fight pretty soon in the book, and that's
Yeah.
never
And
actually
that's not in the it's
anywhere.
not mentioned anywhere. And
Yeah, but there's like
originally,
Esplers, there's
yeah.
swirlies, like that
Uh-huh.
character, like, the mean blonde is not an actual character in the book, but
Yeah.
it is a plot device in the movie to establish Charlie's
Hmm.
outcast.
Hmm.
So it's definitely a choice.
Yes. And originally the movie did have a rated R rating, but they
Yeah.
kept bringing it down and editing stuff out so that they could get a PG-13 rating so
Mhm.
that more teens could see it. And
One
like,
of the things I read was that smoking, the cigarette smoking
yeah.
down
Mm-hmm.
was a big thing. That cigarette smoking is a huge part of this book, which makes sense. It's supposed to
Yeah.
be, it's clearly 90s,
It's
like
set in
that's,
92, like
yeah.
canonically.
So, yeah, but they totally downplayed all of their smoking to none, really,
Yeah.
to avoid the R rating.
Yeah. Paul Rudd as Bill. Right when Paul Rudd came on screen, Isaac said, "Daddy's home." It's like,
Are you on that camp of Paul Rudd, right?
yeah, well,
Yeah.
up until the Ant-Man movies, yes.
Uh,
Yeah,
sh- that
like
makes sense.
yeah, like anything outside of him being in Marvel, yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But like, okay, so they also immediately change Bill
Yep.
in the movie. He is way less going towards that like yellow flag of like too much of a teacher student relationship, and it's more like he's an actually a good teacher, and he's actually like, challenging Charlie without being not manipulative, but without overreaching.
He's not really challenging Charlie
I
as much
mean,
as in the book, and that
yes.
is my thing, is like
Yeah.
there's two central things that really keep Charlie going
Hmm.
outside of his friend relationships, and that's music and it's books.
Hmm.
And books are completely downplayed
Yeah.
in the movie, which I think is definitely a bummer, because like the initial essay that Charlie wrote was he got like a C on it,
Hmm.
and Bill was like, step up your game. And it's not in this at
Yeah.
all. Instead,
Hmm.
you barely can, outside of To Kill a Mockingbird, you
Hmm.
barely see any of that other extra interaction.
Hmm.
And so that's one thing. The other build thing is the background, his story. He no longer has a
Yeah.
struggle friend, he has a wife.
Yep.
He's like happy, which is
Yeah. And he's no
change.
longer a struggling artist turned
Yeah, it actually
teacher.
makes a huge difference in who Bill is, because
Hmm.
at one point Bill gives Charlie books that are completely out of his depth. I
Yeah.
mean, books that I read my first, like during a 300 level philosophy course at college that I
Yeah.
read. So, that part is definitely missing. It's definitely like the yellow, beige, and red flags are all gone.
Yeah. Which like I think are good that they're not there. I think it does make him a little bit lacking of a character, but also it puts more emphasis on the other stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like in a movie and like with any adaptation, you have to pick and choose, right? And like, would I rather have other stuff above Bill's more accurate? Yes. Was that other stuff included? No, but we'll talk about that later, right?
Yeah,
You know what I
I
mean? Because it's under 2 hours, right?
it's almost 90 minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
which
very
is
short.
yeah, just a quick turnaround.
Mhm.
I mean, even though like we joked last episode that there's not much plot that happens, but
It's very much like I started school, here are my friends.
Mhm.
Um, I have a girlfriend, it went badly, and now it's May. Like
Yep.
it is so fast.
Hmm.
I think that the only comment that I would say left on Bill that was interesting that I read from other people's perspective is
Hmm.
that not having Bill definitely does not bring the element of adults taking interest in Charlie. And some of that also has to do with the fact that the family story that he has with his parents, his
Hmm.
brother and his sister, are all like
It's
10% of the 100
yes,
in the book.
yes,
So that is, again, it is way more focused on Charlie and the friends than it is
hmm,
about Charlie's entire like starting
yeah,
experience.
hmm,
And it doesn't like do anything harmful, but it is like a thing a person who read the book notices.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Another thing took note of is in the book when Bill tells them to participate more, it's more of like, or we understand it through Charlie's perspective. It's more of like participate in life, like go and make friends. Whereas in the movie, it's like raise your hand
Cool.
in class.
Yeah.
Like it's very teachery. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
like you knew the answer, raise your hand. Which I just think is interesting because like instead of having that echo through Charlie's mind as the movie goes on and Charlie's starting to try and participate, Charlie becomes his own kind of like hero in that way. It's that like he's the one choosing to participate more and more. Not that it takes him a long time to actually get there, but I thought that was an interesting version. he goes back home and we see Ponytail Derek give his oh yeah, Ponytail Derek's at dinner and he like says this line. He's like, "The chicken paprika is delicious." Like he says paprika and in a hilarious way that like I was cackling and I'm like, this is the dumbest thing to laugh about. But
Do they say that does it say specifically in the book that it's chicken paprikash? Or just that they made a meal for him?
I don't know. Is it paprikash? Is that a thing? Okay, this is Janessa not knowing things. I didn't
Dish.
eat meat for most of my life, so
Yeah.
I thought he was saying paprika. Weird.
No, I believe, and at least it was in the subtitles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well. Anyways, he said it
It's a
really funny, and I
Hungarian.
made it laugh.
That was what I thought was interesting, is that it's a Hungarian dish. And I was like, is this in the book? Because that's kind of like they really kind of portray the family dynamic outside of this moment as like what I would assume being like meat and potatoes crowd.
Yeah.
So them being like, this is Charlie's favorite. I'm like,
Yeah.
how did like this become his favorite?
Interesting.
I think it's in the book. It's just that he made the favorite dish.
Yeah. Yeah. We get the cassette tape from Ponytail Derek when this is finally where Charlie gets asleep by the Smiths. We get kind of like a montage of him listening to his sleep. Charlie's getting bullied. We have that like being alone at lunch. And then it cuts to the football stadium.
Yeah.
And Charlie getting the courage to go say hello to Patrick. And he's just so eager to have friends when he's talking to Patrick. It's just the look on his face. I love it. I love Charlie.
It definitely reminds me of the nervousness that I had.
Yes.
Especially when like I could kind of tell that an older person than me had like a little bit of interest, or like
Mm-hmm.
I thought I was like cool or something.
Mm-hmm.
That was huge for me. I when I was in a freshman in like band, where like the
Mm-hmm.
drum kids were like talking to me as a pit person, like we're on percussion, of course.
Yeah.
It made me think about those things where just like, oh, I'm gonna try to talk to you without you initiating it with me,
Yeah.
it's just like a wholesome and relatable, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Describe.
Definitely. And then we get introduced to Sam, and there's a literal light behind her head. And like it's just very immediately, again, we agree on this, the casting, but also my Sam has a hole in the movie. It's just a miss for me.
Yep. That
Uh-huh.
is the worst part because I love Sam so much.
Uh-huh.
It was a huge part of why I liked the book. And I said
Mhm.
this in the book thing, that there's some experiences or things that she talks about with herself that I like can relate to. And she's so, unlike the book, she's so manic pixie dream girl
She's
here.
so manic pixie dream girl.
Yeah.
It's Emma Watson who is played Sam in the movie. This is her first starring role post Harry Potter.
Mhm.
It's her first American role.
And you can tell.
Uh-huh.
You can sure tell. It takes you out of the movie sometimes where you're like, you hear
Absolutely.
it, because especially the end of her sentences.
Hmm.
And I'm just like, that particular first scene, you can hear it. And I'm just like, oh, like,
Making a British, like to her point, making a British person say Charlie in an American way is
Charlie.
torture.
I know. Yeah, why
Like,
would you do that?
like that's not her fault, but also they couldn't change Charlie's name because the
Yeah,
fans would riot, right? But
right.
like every time she says Charlie's name, it's just painful.
It's not right. And
Mm-mm.
there's just some questionable things that they make a choice about. Like, Sam is supposed to have longer hair,
Yeah, but she
and
literally has a pixie cut.
Watson cut her hair around this time,
Hmm.
and within the last like year or two of this movie being filmed,
Hmm.
which I mean was huge. I mean, the impact
Yeah.
that it had on my high school, like what
Hmm.
people talk about her, because I had an unfortunate almost pixie cut like hair in 20, oh, it was like 2009, 2010.
Hmm.
And everybody was like, "Oh, are you gay?" Like that was the first question I got asked. And I actually would be able to be like, "Well, first off, I am now. I know that." I didn't know that. So I was like, I'm number one ally. I'm just an ally. But also look at Emma Watson's hair. Like
Yeah.
the only reason I got the haircut was because I let my mom's friend cut my hair and she did it too
Yeah.
short. So it wasn't even on purpose. And it was mortifying for me as a person at the time. But now looking at it, I'm just like, if you had her with hair like clipped in for Janet,
Mm-hmm. And it looked fine.
it looked exactly like I thought maybe it should,
Yeah.
outside of Pearl, because I think she's supposed to have sort of like
Yeah.
straighter hair.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's just like the accent, the hair's wrong. Like she's clearly kind of there to be the star power to
And
get
so,
the movie.
yeah, and I was like, so it's like, okay, did they cast Emma Watson as Sam for the star power? But then when I was watching the commentary version of the movie with Chbosky's commentary, he mentions like two or three times that everyone in the cast did it for like whatever the phrase is. That means just like the basic, like everyone got paid the same
Hmm.
per screen time, right? Uh, because they all believed in the project, like including Emma Watson. And so I'm like, okay, well, one, that's cool. I love it when actors are involved like that. That's always nice to hear that they actually did care about the project. But I'm like, then why Emma Watson if you're not? I mean, she is going to get the all the eyes from all the Harry Potter fans of that
That's the
age.
thing. I think even though it wasn't like a blockbuster pay for her, you also have to remember that like this was kind of like an edgy role for her post Harry Potter. And so this is like 2012's version in my eyes of people going like independent, like
Yeah.
shift because
Hmm.
she just did this movie. She did a few other movies and like kind of stepped back before she started doing high profile roles again. So
Hmm.
I think this is very much like a star power like vehicle for the movie where it's like, oh, like it's her, like you mentioned already, it's like her first movie outside of Harry Potter, and like people want
Hmm.
to watch that because she's an actress that a huge amount of people grew up with. Complete miss takes me out of a lot of it. I also think that some of the changes in Sam's backstory by moving her like reputation from that she acquired in sophomore year to
Hmm.
freshman year.
Hmm.
I don't understand that choice. Why that changed.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely that's the thing. It's like I don't usually ask for any remakes. I'm not a big reboot person. But I want to reboot for a better Sam and like that's the selfish person in me.
Yeah.
Because I want to like actually see someone playing the Sam that I love. And then
Hmm.
of course, not selfishly to get rid of Ezra Miller.
Yep. Yes, which I agree with
Yeah.
for sure. After the football game, they go to what in the book was called Big Boy, but in the movie is Kings.
Yeah.
And which I'm like, one, good job for changing the name because no one can say Big Boy seriously. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but also, apparently that King's is an actual like chain of restaurants in Pennsylvania, but the King's that they filmed at is the King's that Shabosky went to all the time as his childhood, that his parents eat at three times a week still. And they let them redo the decoration to make it back to what it looked like in the 90s. And he said specifically he recommends the apple pie there at that
Interesting.
specific one. So we can add that to our road trip when we
Yeah,
go to
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh to get apple pie.
Uh, yeah. Okay. I actually didn't know that. I wrote
Hmm.
maybe it was because either it was a defunct chain now
Hmm.
or because it's a license issue. That's usually why things get changed, is
Hmm.
because they get a license to say, oh, like most people cannot get McDonald's in their
Yep.
productions because they are very, very like tight on what they can be represented in the media, which
Hmm.
is why the spy show The Americans had in their last season a recruit like one of the older looking 80s McDonald's. And that was like a huge thing that people talked about within like TVs and movies. It was like, oh
Hmm.
my gosh, like how did this prestige TV show get McDonald's to actually say yes? And so that I was kind of thinking about that when I was like, is it like because it's a real place? And that's such a good fun
Hmm.
fact.
There's a lot of things in this, and I'll talk about it as they come up, but like Chbosky's childhood is all over this movie.
Yeah, he gets to
Hmm.
actually insert himself
Hmm.
more than he can in his book character.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
should have already listened to us talk about it. But this is a semi-autobiographical. We can't say it still. Autobiographical. Oh my God, I did it. Yeah, so
It's a tough word.
it is. It's long. I also have trouble with words anyways, but autobiographical
Autobiographical.
um book. And so yeah, this is like him being able to actually insert those
Mm-hmm.
things. And I bet that was just like such a fun thing for him to like find the right houses, like see
Mm-hmm.
teams in action. Like I can only imagine like the feels and the proud that he feels about the movie that he made by being able to actually accomplish those things that were written, and now he can actually do the real stuff.
Mm-hmm. When they're at King's and it's Charlie, Sam, and Patrick, and Sam and Patrick are having like their weird little conversation about like I believe in bulimia, I'm a bulimist.
Wrote a note on that one
So like
too.
one, I never understood that line. And two, in the commentary, Chbosky said that he had this joke, but Patrick and Sam could never like portray the joke in the way that he wanted it to, but they didn't understand it, and so they were just like adding ad lib stuff within that joke to make fun of Chbosky because they're like they didn't like that line, and so but then Chbosky ended up really enjoying the chaotic way they were just talking together that didn't make sense, as if like Charlie's coming into this like inside joke from siblings and that it felt more real, so they kept it in. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But then if you don't know that information, you just think that they're a little bit bonkers,
Yeah,
you know?
like
Like,
if
which
you don't
is
know that, you're like, why is there an eating disorder joke?
yeah,
Like, where'd
just
that come from?
randomly.
Yeah, that's not a thing in the book. It's not a thing that makes a lot of
Yeah,
sense. Like,
yeah.
so
But
yeah.
I thought like it was just like all these like little stories Chbosky in the commentary that Chbosky has, especially when the ones between Sam and Patrick. I'm always like, that's adorable. Too bad I hate the person that plays Patrick. Like
Yeah.
adorable. Oh no, that's the worst. Like it was like such a like
Yeah.
weird way to rewatch the movie. But Charlie goes home and we see the scene where he sees his sister get hit by or slapped by Ponytail Derek, and then we get our first little mini flashback of Aunt Helen, and then when they're little baby children is like the first kind of thing that we see. Oh, we do see earlier in the movie that Charlie is taking pills or something. So like us as the audience, like when it's the sing me to sleep, he is taking a few pills there. So like we know something besides him just being a lonely kid and an outcast. We see him take pills. So we get like, okay, slowly the audience is like, oh, something is not totally right, I
Yeah, because I
guess.
took out the psychiatrist.
Mm-hmm. So we got the
That
psychiatrist and we don't find about his friend Michael yet. Like they save it
yeah, that's
towards
not even it's revealed
way later.
at a party.
Yeah. But then this first flashback of Aunt Helen, we're like, okay, so something bad happens with his sister. He sees it. He's now like has to keep that a secret from his parents. And then we see a flashback of Helen. And so we're like, okay, something we know that it insinuates that Aunt Helen was abused by her partners throughout her life. And so it's more of a like, oh, this person is saying the cycle of abuse in families and less of he is anything to do with it.
Well, they took out the grandpa story from Aunt
Yes.
Helen. So, and it's not, yeah, it's kind of like a one-off of like, she
Mm-hmm.
had a hard life. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and so that was one thing that another like article or whatever I was reading about
Yeah.
like people's feelings of the portrayal of Aunt Helen, where they're like, she's mostly like, instead of a person he thinks about constantly, more seen like a vision.
Yeah. But with that like really low moment of seeing his sister get hit in this flashback, and then it bounces to the homecoming dance. And like this movie does that a lot where it'll be sad, but then it'll bounce something happy, right? Which like is similar to the letters, but this is obviously it's a movie, so it's quicker than the letters. The homecoming dance, and this is like the first like, oh, Tumblr still that I immediately saw.
Oh, yeah. Living room routine.
Yep, him just like leaning against the wall, and then the living room routine with "Come on, Eileen." Like that
Yeah.
scene is just I love it. I do like the homecoming scene. I feel like there's a lot of scenes in this movie where like this movie in general feels nostalgic to me because it was right when it came out, right when we were graduating high school,
Mhm.
going to college, right? So that's like a very nostalgic point of life for
Yeah.
most people, right? It's first huge change that most people deal with. But also the movie in general, like because it is set in the 90s, and I feel like they did a pretty good job with the set pieces and the costuming and most the hair, like of making it very 90s feel, but like without it over the top, right? Like,
It's not, you sometimes will see movies that are placed somewhere where they really try to like hone in the time frame.
mm-hmm,
They really are just like overly playing the music or like
mm-hmm,
something to really like stick it in your face. Like this is the 80s, you know,
yeah,
like this is really well done for its timeline because it's not really relying on being like, oh, we don't have these things or like, can you
yeah,
have everything done this way? It's just clearly like
yeah,
this is an older-ish
mm-hmm,
story, but it very much has some of the same feelings of being in high school, like
yeah.
in the time of when this was a movie was coming out.
Yeah, and I think especially the homecoming dance scene does that for me. Then we get into the party, the first party.
Mhm.
I think Logan Lerman acting as Charlie and his first time getting stoned at this party is so good.
This is the perfect
Um,
Charlie acting moment for sure.
it's perfect. Like him like being weirdly obsessed with the carpet, but then moving on to something else. Like he's not overdoing it because so many people when they're high are acting as if they're high,
Mhm.
like overdo it. And I feel like every time Charlie or Logan Lerman could overdo it, he doesn't. And I just it's like just good enough. And I'm so happy with this acting in
It
this
is.
movie.
It's so good. I mean, it's very much not like, oh my God, he's so high, even though there is like the clear
Mm-hmm.
moment of the friends like laughing at him because
Mm-hmm.
like it could have been so much more played over the top, but really it came more as like a most of the like the book tells you about how he's mostly inside his head. So
Mm-hmm.
you're not really getting that in the party scene, and he's actually doing a really great job because it could have been totally overacted. The since it wouldn't have come off as sincere.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly when Charlie finds accidentally walks in on Brad and Patrick kissing when
Mm-hmm.
he's trying to go to the bathroom. Like this could have been totally like overplayed, overacted, like over emotional, like on the face or something. But really
Mm-hmm.
it played way more off of like, oh, he's like half a beat behind on the second because he is so high.
Yeah.
And it just played off so well.
Yeah, I think it's a really good version of it. And with the cheers to like you are a wallflower, you see it all. Like I feel like this scene, the party scene, is not just like the closest it is to the book, but it's like the most one of the most represented scenes from the book to movie.
Yeah.
Like I think it's does a really good job of the feelings behind it. But
Yeah.
then we get moved on to the tunnel scene
Yeah.
and it's playing Heroes by David Bowie.
And not landslide by Fluid
Thank
Night.
God. Like Heroes makes way more sense than Landslide for that moment.
It's so interesting. Like I even reading it in the book just recently, right? I was
Yeah.
thinking like Landslide is such a weird fucking pick.
So
Like
weird. Because Landslide's a
I
sad
so
song.
it's so slow and like the thing about Landslide is that people like particularly of our generation, we really talk about it as like a song we listen to as our kids that now we emotionally feel as
Hmm.
adults. And that has a lot to do with reflecting on your youth in the song, right?
Hmm.
And the moment's not doing any of that.
Yeah.
It's a I'm a kid, I'm the truck, and a high like it
Yeah.
truly is like I don't like David Bowie. I've got lots of problems with the man himself, um,
Yes.
particularly with his treatment towards minors in the 60s.
Yes.
But Fleetwood Mac is just like such a landslide itself.
Yeah.
Is like you would have thought that of all the songs, if you wanted to go that vibe, like Edge of 17 from
Way better.
that would have rocked. And it would have also been, I mean, I know that they're really trying to play off that like we listen to the music of the 60s and 70s,
Hmm.
but I really think that that song would have been so much cooler in the
Hmm.
book. Heroes itself, can't lie, it does kind of hit.
It
So
like with this, it just makes sense
it
to that
does like
scene.
the exact use of it, just
Yeah.
it does give that feeling that I
Hmm.
would love, like I really love to have when I was driving around with my
It,
friends.
it's a great driving song. It's a great teenage, like, fine, like them. Okay, so apparently Chbosky got a lot of shit from people being like, there's no way these two alt kids didn't know that this is a David Bowie song. which I was like, at first, I'm like, I get it now. Like, we know that that's a Bowie song immediately. But Chbosky says to him in 92, when this was set, David Bowie was the Let's Dance guy, and he wasn't the Heroes guy.
Yeah.
So that's like his defense of it, of them not knowing what song it was at that time.
I know. I get it that like the whole thing is that they're supposed to have like this super music taste, so eclectic. They like don't listen to anything popular.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think that it's a good sub.
I think it's good. From the I Feel Infinite scene in the tunnel, we get our next like batch of voiceover. And this is again kind of like used to info dump, but also to move time forward. We get the background of all the friends. So we like have met at this point Mary Elizabeth, who's played by May.
Isn't it Whitman?
Yeah, I just my brain stopped for a second.
It's okay.
I think that's excellent casting.
I will, yeah, this is the one that I will go to the end of the world. I'm actually a huge Mae Whitman
Yeah,
fan. I'm a huge fan, and she's probably a little bit old for this one too, but she's perfect. I mean,
she's so good.
she's so good at just being like a troubled know-it-all like teen. Like that was like a part
Hmm.
that she did in Parenthood, the TV show.
Yep.
I think that she's fantastic. I will say it's kind of weird that they put her going to Harvard over Berkeley.
Yeah.
I don't get that one. Like,
I think it's just because people know Harvard as
are
prestigious.
you telling me that people don't know that Berkeley? I mean, here's the thing that I'm going to say about it.
Hmm.
The introduction of Mary Elizabeth and talking about her interests is that she's clearly like looking for a life that is a West Coast vibe, right? Like they mentioned
Yes.
to go to Berkeley. She wants to like see different things. She wants to have lesbian relationships.
Hmm.
Like these are these things that I think are way more associated with California in the
Hmm.
90s, maybe Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Most definitely Massachusetts.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's a nitpick for sure, but I think that making it at Harvard is way more pretentious than like what she's kind of doing, and then being like, I'm gonna be a lobbyist and then I'm gonna live in Cape Cod. I'm just like, you're making a point, but also it's straying a little too far from the punk rocky of her, in my
I
opinion.
thought that was more of her like making fun of her parents. I
Mm.
just thought the line didn't hit. That's my interpretation of that, was that like she was trying to be like sarcastic while also starting to be vulnerable with him.
Interesting.
That's what I read.
Hey, I would totally understand it if I'm the one who took that literal. So
Yeah. I
that
don't
would
know.
be very like that would be very on brand for me.
Charlie makes Sam a tape and gives it to her outside of like the Christmas scenes or at the end, which immediately adds to the fact that Sam is way more manic pixie dream girl in this movie and less just, oh, Charlie's a kid developing crushes for the first time, which
Yes.
is what I loved about the book, and it's taken away, which is so sad. But we lead up to Christmas, and we already talked a bit how the grandpa's whole storyline is not there, but the drama in general of the family, besides a mysterious Aunt Helen whose visions are there sometimes, right? I also thought it was interesting that most of the characters are set up to be more, and maybe it's because they live in suburbia, so I'm just like assuming, but they seem more like middle class slash upper middle class, with like the houses are all really nice, but also we barely hear about the money issues that the family has. Like we hear it a little bit when Charlie's brother comes to town, a little bit, but not much.
Other than that, it's the hospital. Like
Yeah,
it's
the hospital bill, yeah.
it's like you can't afford this. So
And I feel like that takes a little bit away of the stress of Charlie, because Charlie as a character, right? So the whole thing is that he represents teenagers who have to hold secrets, who have to see pain and who have to deal with that. Like that's like the basis of his character. But then we get in the book the extra information that it's not just that he's seeing all this pain from other people, not just in his family, but in the world, but his family is also dealing with it. And it is like it's compounded. And then they take that away, that the family isn't struggling visibly, with
they
that.
really cut out just
And it
90.
feels empty a little bit.
Yeah, it's like Charlie has one.
Yeah.
Like thumbs up. Like Charlie
Yeah.
has a family, has a brother who plays for Penn State. That's way more
Yeah.
important anything to do with the sister, even though
Mm-hmm.
the sister is a major character
Mm-hmm.
to Charlie's like relationship with everything, which is a shame because actually I think Nina Dobrev would have been really great.
And she does for what she's in. She's great.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I think that they should have included her more, and I understand why they didn't because it's
Mm-hmm.
about Charlie, it's not
Mm-hmm.
about, but like there were just some things that could have been like an extra 20 seconds.
Yep.
Like removing Charlie's, well, first off, we didn't even talk about not having any Charlie's crying, but
Oh
they
yeah.
they don't have the scene with his dad, which
Mm-hmm.
they don't have the scene of the like the match episode, like that's not there. This whole thing about their dynamic where it's like the sister is a loud mouth, the mom's quiet, the dad is stern,
Mm-hmm.
but he had this moment of crying. Like all of that
Oh,
family
that's gone.
dynamic has been removed. It's their entire thing is being worried about Charlie.
Yeah, and they're really bad at that. Like
Mhm.
it's only the brother that really cares. It's like everyone is
Yeah.
like doesn't acknowledge the ghost of Charlie's past,
Yeah,
and
the
the only person
sister,
that does is the
yeah,
brother.
the sister like having that moment of like you smoking or like you
Hmm.
do this, like it's not a part of it at all.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned, I would have loved if the abortion scene was kept in this.
It is a deleted scene.
It is a deleted scene, so if you
And it's a
have
good scene too. Like it's fully edited. They just took it out.
I'm
Like
just
it's
like
really good.
I know somebody with like a PS3 they're not using. I think I might just ask if I can borrow it so I can watch the deleted
I'll send you my DVD.
I have a DVD. It's funny. I have a case of DVDs that were basically all those DVDs were actually bought around the time of this movie coming out. I was like, I'm gonna get all these like $5 bin
Yep,
Target
same.
movies. Like I had like such an aside, but like, do you remember when they had like the Judd Apatow multi-movie pack?
Yep.
Like all of that. So
Yeah.
yeah, but I don't have anything.
Yeah. We just have Isaac's old Xbox that I use as a DVD
Exactly.
player.
Use someone else's old
Old.
uh
You can find one off Facebook Marketplace, probably.
that's true, but also
Yeah.
our don't have a huge need for it
Yeah.
otherwise.
True.
Yeah. Anyways,
Um, but yeah, so a little behind the scenes thing that I got from the commentary. When at Charlie's house when they're decorating for Christmas, and in the background it's like it's non-focused, but they're decorating the Christmas tree. Apparently, Chbosky's like favorite ornament that he's had since he was a child is on that tree. And when he was recording the commentary, because he had him and his wife had a baby right before they started filming this, and he was like, "And I'm really nostalgic right now and excited because it's going to be her first Christmas this Christmas, and we're going to put that same ornament that was on that tree in the movie on our tree." And I was just like, "This is adorable."
I love that. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
really
you know,
sweet.
like I said, like this is him being able to actually actualize the entire universe in front
Hmm.
of people. That's not just whatever Charlie's telling us in a
Yeah,
letter. Mhm.
yeah, it's
Love that.
definitely. I highly recommend the commentary, but I'll get more into that later. We get to the Secret Santa party. I think this scene also does a really good job, and I
This is
think
definitely true.
it
To
does a
really,
good job of like showing a group of friends, like besides Charlie, because it's a different situation, but like the rest of them, like a group of friends who have known each other for 3 or 4 years, if not longer, like just being 100% comfortable with each other and like just like enjoy, like it's just a great moment. And like I know they are probably all in their 20s or like early 20s, like late teens, maybe 19. I don't know how about the extras, but they're probably all in their 20s. But like it's so like not very often do you see kids that age actually being portrayed as the kids actually hanging out. Like there's that one scene in Gilmore Girls where Jess and Paris are arguing about literature that I love because I'm like, this is like actually what teens would do is they would argue about this thing. And it's like not that deep, but it could be, and I feel like this is a very similar vibe of people, young people being truly like trusting each other and hanging out. And I really enjoyed the scene.
yeah, I thought it was super cute. I mean, I complained about how in the book
Mhm.
that I guess it's not complaining. I guess I just pointed out that Alex is a much more prominent, useful character in the
Yes.
movie. And really my favorite part is when they're like saying like, oh, jeans, this must be from
Yeah.
Alice, and then it
Yeah.
being like, she paid for it. Like it's just truly like
Hmm.
It was so good. I love the Christmas scene.
It's super sweet. Like all of the whole Christmas thing is super sweet. Um, and there's a deleted scene where Charlie reads the poem in totality to them, and I'm so glad that they did not include it because I don't like that poem. But that's just me. But they did have it as a deleted scene. It goes from the Secret Santa part to Charlie and Sam in Sam's room, and Charlie tells Sam that his aunt was his favorite person and that she gave him that CD or not CD, that vinyl, and then now he's gonna give his other his other favorite person that vinyl. And I'm like, I don't like immediately switching his aunt and Sam very obviously like together in that connection.
Yeah, I mean, this is
I did not like that.
it's not great. I
No.
mean, obviously in the book, he does give Sam the something vinyl and it is talking about her, but it really is like a really great example of how he only really has interactions with women like three times.
Mm-hmm.
Just his sister, Mary, and then,
Mm-hmm.
Sam. I guess I mean like Aunt Helen, I don't really want to include to his sister. So it's basically this. In the book, we hear him narrating like him constantly discussing boundaries
Mm-hmm.
towards Sam. I should look at her this way. I shouldn't look at her this way. I need to try to act this way. I need to do that. And if you didn't read the book, I really don't think that you can kind of grasp what that scene is like and like
Yeah.
how it's to what everything is.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. I don't know. It's and when she's like, I want the whole idea, and like we talked about this last episode, the whole idea of her being like, I want the person that kissed you to truly love you. And then like that's just cringy and like not
Oh,
good, you know?
no.
And apparently that scene is Chbosky's favorite scene in the movie.
Oh no. See, this is why I said in the last podcast, I said clearly this is written about him having crushes on older girls.
Yep.
I
It
believe it.
has to
And
be.
he said like these are like a combination
Yeah.
of people to make it one person, which I
Mm-hmm.
actually you can tell in the book. I think
Mm-hmm.
you can tell that more in the movie than
Mm-hmm.
what you can because I when you're the book, you are accepting that it's unreliable. You are accepting,
Yeah.
and so actually, like it really just, she's the Ramona Flowers of this universe.
Yeah. And like also he said it's not the proudest, like he has a different scene where he's like, this is the proudest piece of like capital A art and like for a later scene. And I'll talk about that later that he's of this movie. But he loved the scene the most because he loved working with Emma and Logan so much. And he also like talked about it in like a hopeless romantic teen way. He's like, I love the idea of someone possibly like meeting their forever soulmate. And I was like, Sam is not his forever soulmate.
No, there is no way
No.
they end up together. Like
No.
no,
And he
no,
says like you
no.
can put it like it's up to you, the audience, to decide if they do or do not end up together. And I was like, thank God you said that. Because if you said that they did in your head, I was gonna be like, I'm gonna turn off this commentary.
Yeah.
But no, no. But nevertheless, they kiss. And he, he gets home and it's his birthday. His brother comes over and we start getting more flashbacks to his birthday as a kid. And then Helen. And then we have the coolest transition ever where they're at church and he's about to take the church wafer and it turns into an LSD tab.
Yeah.
Like coolest transition.
Yeah, it was really well done.
This movie like randomly has like super artsy bits and I'm just like, ooh.
That's the thing is like that is the question. Is like, do you accept this as a major film or is this an art like an art film? And I think that this is a art film that's
I think it's an art film.
and to it's definitely not made for a wide audience.
No.
And I think that is what makes the difference here on how it is created and like
Yeah.
yeah.
But I love that transition. Yeah. So it's the New Year's Eve party, he's taking LSD and like the way it's filmed, they film how he like is on his bad trip essentially is just very visually intriguing. Like everything's blurry, and it's what we don't get to see through his letters, right?
Mhm.
Is the actual events of it all. He ends up going outside and shoveling a perfect circle in the snow. And I just think the symbolism of a like in like that shot too, like it's really high up. He's in this huge um this huge driveway with like four garages in this house, and like this perfect, he's trying to make this perfect circle, and is like there's a symbol like circles, symbolic of like life and death, like repeating over and over of him trying to make everything okay, like and perfect, like a circle. And then Sam comes in, not Emma. Sam comes in and like comforts, and I think the acting there is really good because even though like they're tiny little babies on the screen, like we can see the comfort of the characters. I just really liked that whole little screenshot of it, or like I
I
thought it
will
was really
say
good.
we're talking about good representation of what it's like to be high.
Hmm.
I don't think this is like the best
Yeah.
for a bad acid trip, but again,
Hmm.
I think that they really don't. They clearly were not trying to play up the fact that he freaks out all the time because they
Hmm.
completely removed all of his crying.
Hmm.
Completely removed this like big part of what we end up building towards anyways.
Yeah.
That is one thing where I'm like, like it's so matter of fact in the book because that's
Hmm.
just what it's saying about it.
Hmm.
And, going from like, we're laughing, we're playing with the carpet to just like, not even like a full, what I've seen bad trip, you'll be like,
Yeah.
it's very, very mellow.
Hmm.
So yeah, I understand not wanting to go for the dramatics, but also that was a little,
It could, and I maybe that could be because of the PG-13. Like
maybe.
they were able to get away with the wafer turning into an LSD
That
tank. You know what I
was,
mean? So like it might have to do with that. I'm not sure, but I
I had
do.
so much beef with the MPAA, I guess.
Yep,
It's like,
they
really?
deserve it.
Like, yeah. So it's definitely one of those things where it's like, oh, like this could have been a little bit more because before we hit the last third of the book,
Hmm.
which they moved towards very dramatically after this trip, they talk about the trip a
Hmm.
lot,
Yeah,
actually. And it's not.
it's barely talked here. Like he has those flashbacks of his aunt and the Luminarias, which that street with the Luminaria is on in the movie is literally the street that Chbosky grew up on. Like the driveway to like he's like talks about it in detail, but it's like so like I thought that was cute. But he like has those flashbacks, and then Charlie starts doing the snow angel, which you don't see at first what it is as an angel, but I also really enjoyed the fact that he makes a snow angel because like there's so much like symbolism there, right? Because like he's thinking about his aunt who ended up dying, right? Death angel. The football team are the devils. Like snow angels is something that you do as a kid, but here he is like trying to not be a kid.
Yeah,
Like
his bad trip is flashbacking him, and he's
yeah,
doing, and also I think it just would have. It was a really good artistic choice. I think it would have been weird to just like have him just laying in
just
the
laying. Yeah,
snow.
it would be weird, but I think it makes sense and adds
Yeah,
something.
I like it.
Yeah. But then he wakes up and he's in the hospital, and he has to lie to his parents and the cops that he just was getting hot and had to go outside and then fell asleep because that's normal. um
And
uh
if I remember correctly, after this is when they do send him to the psychiatrist, right? It was after the acid trip,
in
the book.
the book, I think so, like every other week or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't like really seeing the doctor, and then it was like after this that
Hmm.
the psychiatrist gets introduced, and when that is like when Charlie starts being like, "Why is this person asking me
Yeah.
questions?"
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to talk about them because I don't get it.
We missed one of the first Rocky Horror
Oh, sure.
scenes, but
Very important.
we but we get to the second Rocky Horror scene where Craig, who's Sam's boyfriend, is not there, so to play Rocky, so Charlie steps in to play Rocky, and like living everyone's nightmare of wearing your underwear in front of people at school, like, like you didn't wear pants, and also that you don't know the lines to a play. Like it's just a double nightmare. Um, and yeah, and he plays, but like Rocky Horror in general, I love that they got the rights to do Rocky Horror, because if they didn't, like it would have
They couldn't have made this movie,
it,
like
yeah.
Rocky, it's just so essential.
Uh-huh. Which you need to see it, Sam, and live.
I
Like,
know. Watching this again, I was like, I need to do it.
yeah. Also when he's as Rocky in his little like gold speedo, you see Mary Elizabeth like check out his butt, and it's like, okay, so she saw his butt and then was like, oh, I should date him.
Yeah,
That was
it's
like, which, like, I mean, get it, girls could be horny too, but also like, Mary Elizabeth, come on. Um, so they ended up going to Sadie Hawkins dance together, and we have that like, I hate when movies do this because it just freaks me out, where like the character is visioning someone else as someone else, and then the screen like swishes and it's their face changes, so he imagines he's dancing with Sam, and then it changes and he's
that
not.
was great. I love that.
It's great, but it freaks my brain out every time. Like, whenever movies or TV shows do that, I'm like,
It's a trick.
which
It's
is,
a trick.
it's good. Like it does its point, but I'm like, Uh, but then we had the really cringy makeout scene with Mary Elizabeth, which is so good because that's exactly how it is in the book, and it's exactly how it is when you have two people who are not bad people, but like just bad together, right? Like, whereas Sam's dating a shitty dude named Craig, that sucks. But like Mary Elizabeth's not shitty.
No,
Charlie's not shitty. It's just that they're not for each other.
no, it's definitely like a great. They yeah, you were saying it right. Like they completely nailed like the
Mhm.
entire like Mary. I think that's why I love the casting so much of Main Women is because it is perfect. The amount of rapport that they have, like when they're talking, like when Patrick and Mary Elizabeth are talking about, well, I think it's one of my favorite lines where it's like, how did you get meaner since
Mhm.
becoming a Buddhist? Maybe you're doing something wrong. And she's like, or maybe I'm doing something right. Like
Yeah.
it's so good. Like the level of like ability to be
Snarky.
annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like annoying to him, but it's clearly just normal girl behavior that he just is a bad friend about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also like the part where like as they're dating and we have the voiceover of Mary Elizabeth talking shit about the books that he's reading, which
Mhm.
like some of those books deserve to be talked shit about. Anyways, at you, Walden.
I know. I read this and that was great. I'm like,
I was like, I
really?
didn't, but I also don't think you should read it,
No.
Charlie. Um, but and all that, and he's on the phone, and he puts the phone down, and he's talking to his parents in the kitchen, and his dad's like, "You need to break up with her," and Charlie's just like, "You can do that?" Just like, I thought like it's funny, but also it does fit the Charlie in the book that is just like, I don't know what I'm experiencing in the world.
That
Like,
is like them being as close to him being autistic coded in the movie. Like
that's true.
blatantly being like,
Mhm.
wait, I can just do that?
Yeah, yeah. And then we have the truth or dare scene, which is just
Hard to watch
gut
and listen,
gut
just
gut wrenching. Like, also, truth or dare is never a good idea. Like,
no.
if you're listening to this and you've never played truth or dare, just
I
pat
mean,
yourself on the
never have I
back. Good
ever.
job.
That's what I got to say about
Never have I
that.
ever is way better.
Yeah, I don't do truth.
Why? Way easier.
I'm just not fun because I'm always going to pick truth and like I'm just going to always say what I think like I
Yeah.
normally. So
Yeah.
never ever is way more fun, even
Never
though
agreed. But it's such a good scene though.
oh
Like
yeah, it's
it's great.
perfect. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's just the immediate turning the wrong way, like it just
Mhm. Um
reactions. It's perfect. I think it's just like this movie is its best when it's its full cast.
yes. Mhm.
Yeah.
Definitely. I agree. Cause yeah, they balance, like, it's a balanced cast
Yeah.
for all its pitfalls of the cast. It
Yeah,
is a
it's kind of
balanced
like
cast.
the top three of them. I wouldn't say that they're necessarily always matching each other in caliber, which could just be Emma Watson not being a good fit.
Yeah.
But having them all together, it's just
Mhm.
like my favorite parts of the movie.
Yes. I agree. Yeah. But then we have the really dramatic friend breakup that starts sending Charlie into a spiral. Like we see him like either almost crying on the phone, like just very panicky. He
This is
gets
the closest to Charlie's actual mental health that you see in the
yeah,
movie. Yeah.
and he starts getting more and more flashbacks, but we do find out about Brad and Patrick getting caught again. And then we had the fight scene, which is very similar to what it is in the book.
That is basically almost like scene for scene.
Yeah, which is good, and like they should have like I'm glad they did it scene for scene, and I thought the actor who plays Brad, I thought he did a really good job of not being a super macho-y jock
No, it is
character.
it's kind of funny that he's not almost like
Hmm.
he's supposed to be like a star player, but he's just not.
He just needs a better haircut,
Maybe
honestly.
he's a pedestal in the book, but he's very normal. Like
Yeah.
he's an over glorified football player in like the
Hmm.
best way, I think,
Hmm.
by that casting.
Yeah, I
It could
agree.
have been in person and like maybe it could have been better, but like this is not bad casting.
I think it makes sense. Since I think it's good casting. I just wish his haircut was a little bit better.
I know, but it is still funny that like, I've already mentioned
Hmm.
Scott Pilgrim, right? Like this
Yeah.
guy was in a very amount of stuff like at this time. He was young
Hmm.
Neil in Scott Pilgrim. He was Chip in Jennifer's Body. Like
Hmm.
it's funny. Like this cast is like so many different stages of the time
Yeah.
almost, and like I said, it's a cast filled with famous people. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Which is wild.
Yeah.
Just wild. But because Charlie blackout raged, punched everyone, um he earns everyone's trust, and then we get Emma Watson's brilliant line where her British accent is barely being held back, where she goes, "Let's go be psychos together." And she's
Yeah.
trying so hard to do like a California together, but like it does not hit. And I'm just like, but also that's one of those lines that's all over Tumblr. It was never the one that I like loved, but
No.
like because also like what it insinuates, but like just her delivery. Do you think if she had a better American accent, that it would be better? Like, is that the only issue? I mean, it's not the only issue.
I think that it just needed to be a different person. I don't think
Yeah.
she's like I really don't. Like I just don't think she could pull it off.
Yeah.
And or at least at that point in her career.
Hmm.
Like it should have been someone else. I think like I very much stand by that.
Yeah. Because
It
she does Bling Ring right after this, and her accent in Bling Ring is better than this
her.
one.
I don't know
Yeah.
if it's just because like she was like very focused on having an eat like focusing on the fact that it's like the East Coast because like nobody really has
No one has a Pittsburgh
and
accent in this
nobody has
movie.
any like accent at
No.
all in this. And I would say that Pittsburgh is a place that you will see a lot of people who are from Pittsburgh having not necessarily like an accent that some people like you can clearly tell in like Philly, but as
Hmm.
much as the way that people like talk in
Yeah.
Pittsburgh, like people who I've met and know from Pittsburgh tend to have not necessarily an accent, but like a way they say things. And I'm sure that was even more true in the 90s. So
Yeah.
I just think that there was just too much going on. I think that needed to be completely right in the sense that Logan got certain things very, very right that made the
Hmm.
movie. Patrick's character being just as greatly transferred from the book to the page to a
Hmm.
very eccentric actor.
Hmm.
I just think that she's not edgy.
Yeah.
Like she
I mean,
didn't
that's
have
true.
it did not seem like any trauma informed either. Like Sam is a person who's had a really rough life, and
Hmm.
I just didn't get any of that. Like
Yeah.
Emma's portrayal is very, very like surface level. And again, I'm biased. I really love this character, Sam. I
Hmm.
see myself in it. Um, and I just think that it was too happy and normal. Like nothing had ever happened to her.
Yeah, I get that. Like a little bit too empty of a character.
Yeah, it's just like Charlie's in love with her. She's so pretty. She dates a
Hmm.
shitty dude. Like she wants to go to school, but like even the worries and like there's one thing in here that it's not a sacrifice to the movie, but like her dreams of Penn State are not really in this. Like it's like
Yeah.
to go to Penn State. They don't, I don't think they even talk about the fact she got into a safe school. So
Yeah.
it's very much like, oh, am I good enough for Penn State? Not like good enough in general. And
Yeah.
that was like a whole thing from her is whether or not
Mm-hmm.
she's good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I just don't think she was the right actor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that all makes sense. Yeah,
Sure.
then we have the scenes where Charlie and Patrick are hanging out, and they are to a minimum
So
version
yeah.
than in the book.
Uh-huh.
Um, I'm kind of glad they didn't do like all the different hangouts in the movie. I don't love the scenes where him and Charlie are hanging out and Patrick kisses Charlie, but like,
It's like those are a great example of Charlie being a bad friend. You
yes.
do not get a ton of Charlie being a bad friend, just
Mm-hmm.
servicing his. But I definitely it and there's many scenes that I like that I believe were thrown in the bucket because it took away from Charlie's story.
Yeah.
And I think that they had established, I'm sure that Stephen felt like they established enough of the Patrick Charlie relationship for
Mm-hmm.
them to not include that, though it did, by not doing that, they didn't have the interaction with Brad being seen in the park. Like
Mm-hmm.
it did take out these parts of the book that are actually about LGBTQ culture, uh,
Yeah.
not in a positive light. So that is probably for the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then we have like kind of like a voiceover almost of I think it's a voiceover at this point where all the friends are getting into college. We have Patrick's excellent senior prank of painting all the tools pink.
Which
That
is
is
not
an
book, but it's
excellent
pretty good.
it's an excellent prank. Like senior pranks are often just like destroying property, which is like eh. But this is great because it points out that the teacher was homophobic. But look at you can have pink tools that still work. Like nothing got ruined. And I
Yeah.
just really enjoyed that.
It's cooler than putting Kool-Aid in the pool. Like straight.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
One question I have is that wasn't it out of order the way that Patrick and Charlie had their friendship before the fight scene?
Yeah.
That was one little thing that made it awkward.
Yeah. It's just that Patrick was lonely still from the whole Brad situation.
And it would have made way more sense for them to have a like Patrick and I have been hanging a lot lately then,
Hmm.
and we just being like he's really alone and struggling would have made way more sense before the fight because then
Yeah.
it yeah, he did stick up for his friend, but the dynamic of not having of only having Patrick but none of the
Yeah.
friends is important to the story and didn't it would have been just 2 minutes to have like a brief montage of them hanging out, drinking, getting like overly, just having that more concretely in the way that the book had it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
That's true.
otherwise it's like now we didn't have any friends, and then I've had the fight, and then we're friends except for only now I'm hanging out one-on-one with Patrick. It's like
Yeah.
you're like if you all are friends, like that wasn't the point of the book. The book is supposed to be that you fucked up, and then Patrick didn't have anyone, and so Patrick relied on Charlie, and then
Hmm.
it was reconciled by the fight, all of them together, and so
Hmm.
I just think that they should have changed it.
Yeah. I think so too. It would have
Yeah.
made
It
more
would have
sense
really
and more of an
added
impact.
isolation too. Like Charlie's
Yeah.
isolation getting worse coincided. He was smoking all that weed. Like,
Hmm.
and it's fine that they didn't put all of that because obviously they didn't put the smoking. So it's
Yeah.
probably the same rationale of the rating. So
Hmm. Yeah. And yeah. But then we have more voiceover as they go to prom and the graduation scenes. Um, we get the information from the voiceover that the whole situation with Craig and Sam.
there's two things about Craig in
Yes.
the movie. One of them is that I guess they guess they were like, you know what, this book had 3 dances. We don't need
Hmm.
3 dances. It was like
Hmm.
homecoming, say hugging, and prom was where you actually found out that Craig was cheating. It's where we get way more about Peter, Mary Elizabeth's
Hmm.
college boyfriend. And the reason I want to point that out particularly is because the person who plays Peter is somebody who in this era played lots of inappropriate college age boyfriends um,
Mm.
to young high schoolers. Landon Pig, who, if you've seen the movie Whip It,
I have never seen it.
Janessa is so Janessa coded. Holy shit, you have to watch it. Anyways, never watch it. It's a movie about a Texas teen who
Hmm.
gets into roller derby and
Hmm.
ends up meeting this musician who is Landon, Landon Big, and they start this relationship and he's way older and fucks her over.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's seeing Landon Pig in this movie, I was like, oh, like this
Just
guy, I mean, he looks like a skeevy 24-year-old boyfriend, you know what I mean?
hmm
Like, so that was definitely interesting, funny casting.
wild. Maybe he just has a character he knows how to play.
Yeah, I
I
don't even
hope
think
from not real life.
I think these are the only, actually, I think these are the only movies he ever did.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna be shitty too old for these high schoolers, and that's it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So we have this Sam's bedroom scene
Mhm.
where we get Sam confronting, kind of. Again, the performance not great. Confronting Charlie with not being active and not like advocating for himself and what he wants and just like letting people do things to him. Like Patrick, hit about Charlie not telling Sam that he liked her that way. And we had the line, I don't want to be somebody's crush. I do like Logan's performance in this scene. It's hard because the scene is not, it's so unbalanced because I
Yeah.
think Logan Lerman does a great job of like trying to communicate these things to Sam, but not getting the same energy back. Like he's like, we've been through similar things, like alluding to the stuff that the audience has yet to really put together with Aunt Helen, right? And I think, but then Sam's lines back are just like not it because
No.
of the performance. But it leads to one of my favorite parts of the movie. So, like in the book, this is where we find the audience puts it together, where Charlie puts it together. We don't get the full info right in the book at this point, but Charlie understands, oh, Sam's touching me the same way that Aunt Helen did, right?
Right.
Well, we don't get that right here. And I think it's good because I think it would have put a really big damper on Sam's goodbye, right? But as like Charlie's walking her out to the truck, he starts getting these flashbacks and we get more and more info. And at first it's just like, oh, he's remembering his night with Sam. Oh, it's because he's sad that Sam's leaving. But then it turns from that to him as a child and his Aunt Helen touching him similarly. Just the editing is just so chaotic and it's
Mhm.
so good.
This
I
is
don't
my example of like, you don't, there's a few of these, like, I think there's three where it's
hmm
like two scenes are happening at once.
hmm
They're being interdispersed. It's just so good. I
yeah.
mean, yeah, it's a
And him
great
slow
example
walking.
too. You don't really see a lot of great mental health, like when someone's triggered,
Yeah.
without knowing, like when you see a person's triggered, but you don't know what's in their head,
Yeah.
like A+ acting.
hmm It's great acting, it's great editing, and even like I was when I was rewatching it, it's like so he like we had those those two scenes back and forth, and then we have him walking home and like we see like three or four of him kind of like opaquely walking through, and then he's crying, and then we see the back of him and the camera zooms in, like jump cuts zooms in to literally his head. So we're suddenly in his head, like literally. It's so good. Like which like frustrates me because this movie has so many fantastic parts, and then there's just the Sam and Patrick of it all just like drop it. Like it's so close to being so good. It's so frustrating. I
Yeah.
don't know. And I do like that we have that Charlie reaches out to his sister. I do like that. That's different
The
from
book
the
they
book.
find him. He
The
is
book they
found.
find him. And the book leads us to know that he like his mental breakdown like makes him like go unconscious, right? Less so than him actually trying to hurt himself. Where in the movie, it's led to him potentially almost hurting himself and maybe blacking out. Like it's a little bit gray because we don't see him having scars, but we do see his memory of Aunt Helen's scars, and then we do see him looking at the knife. And I do like that it's a little bit more gray there. But because we don't have because the whole movie we have not had that like constant understanding that Charlie is dealing with stuff constantly,
Yeah.
right? I do think that at the ending, or not the ending, but this version of his breakdown makes sense for the lack of the other stuff in the beginning, you know? So if it was like the breakdown was just like the book, it wouldn't have hit as hard.
No, it wouldn't have because, like I said multiple times, there was no crying.
Mm-hmm.
Not know if you just only watch this movie,
Mm-hmm.
how like when you look at the Wikipedia for this, it says that he's unbeknownst to him that he's PTSD.
Yeah.
In this movie, it is not portrayed nearly as well as the book, which of
Mm-hmm.
course is makes sense because the book is just the internal thoughts and how he
Mm-hmm.
relates them. They've definitely it's so interesting that this is like such a mental health movie, but the level of Charlie's mental health concerns is just not there.
Yeah.
And again, probably for the rating, probably to make sure, because this is kind of marketed too as a little bit of comedy in it. It's
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be like coming of age.
Yeah.
And it is definitely more about your friends than it is about his mental health, which is not the
Mm-hmm.
book.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think in a different world, if it had the R rating, I think it would have had way more of the mental health
Pretty much
part.
everything I wanted, but that's fine.
Yeah. Which like I understand why they wanted a PG-13 because of like the money reason besides like wanting to have younger kids, because so much of this is like Charlie in the movie, I feel like to me is less it's different than the book, obviously, but like in a way, like an example to kids who may not be dealing with the same exact issues Charlie does in the book, but like it's more of a like, hey, look at Charlie, he's trying to make friends. He is like he struggles with things, but like more of a relate to kids in a like easier way, which is like it takes away from the power and parts, but I
Yeah,
also think is worth being there. You know what I mean? It's like a complicated thing,
it
right?
is because he's portrayed as shy, and
Mm-hmm.
that's not the entire story. And I think that is why you and I had such a like great robust discussion on like, is it an
Mm-hmm.
autism coded
Mm-hmm.
character? Because you really get more of his social interaction than you get how much he is impacted every single like
Yeah.
letter by his deteriorating mental health. Besides, it's getting bad again,
Mm-hmm.
and saying I don't even know if they even established. I don't think they established that he was actually 16 because they didn't have any of the driving.
They have 16 candles on his birthday
Okay, that
cake.
okay. People like
Sorry.
me can't. No, I'm glad to know. It just makes me. It just reminds me that I'm like for people who can't count very well or fast like myself.
Oh, I only know that because I saw it on the wiki page.
See, so yeah, it's so not there, even though that is like huge plot point is that he is older than the
Mm-hmm.
rest of his class.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and instead he's just like a freak, and
Yeah.
that he had some moment and that his friend did die. And yeah, it's not the mental health story that the book is, which is probably why I see people say that they like the movie more than the book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's fine. Like
Yeah.
I think that's fine. Like I definitely want to talk to you about how you feel about it. But I mean I see it. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
There's like one like little last bit. Like we have like two more scenes in the movie. The hospital scene with Joan Cusack. Love.
Love.
Love. And
Um,
and in general, that hospital scene between Charlie and the doctor, I think is so good because Charlie, like the way he's acting, he's not like over angry, he's not like shutting down. He's very much like it's very much like a kid like trying to tell the truth, and as he's telling the truth, he's embarrassed, which is like so much like anytime I've done like any therapy, I'm like, this is embarrassing, which it is for like a lot of it until you get over it, right? Like, but like that first step, I mean, in my experience at least, the ability to tell the truth is so hard, and it's so like, especially with Charlie, like he's been keeping all these secrets, and so I think that acting he portrays that so well in that scene. I feel like,
oh yeah, especially because in the book, when this is happening, he is repeating to himself out and in that people have it way worse than him.
Yeah.
And I think that helps in the book, helps him actualize that he went through something painful,
Hmm.
and something that impacted him and continues to impact him. Where here in the movie, first, this is kind of like what I said about the teacher. This is the first time you really see adults super interact with him outside of
Hmm.
a mom and dad
Hmm.
sense. And by sacrificing having the psychiatrist that was originally in the story, having this sort of reaction where he's actually kind of being more matter of fact, probably just
Hmm.
because he's like trying to like rationalize and figure out where he's at, because this is presumably right about after, but not right when he
Yeah.
wakes up after being out. And so it's definitely interesting to think about. It's like, how would this story make sense if we had any inkling or really establishment of that psychiatrist, more info about his being held back, or that
Hmm.
he, what he was, more info about the fact that he was someplace before that took a while. I think that's
Hmm.
just mentioned in like one of the first opening scenes or something. And I will also say, while we are on the topic of Aunt Helen, that in the book she's described as corpulent,
Hmm.
of a certain body size.
Hmm.
And they put Melanie Linsky in this,
Hmm.
who is another actor I fucking love.
She's
I
great.
love Melanie Linsky. Some of my favorite stuff has Melanie Linsky in it.
Ever
And
After.
I've actually never seen Ever After, but my friend in my movie club just watched it like last night.
Sam, you
I know.
have to watch it.
You and I have both left with like, you need to go see Whippa. I need to watch
Like, it's the
Wallflower
best Drew
again.
Barrymore.
Yeah.
It's her most Drew Barrymore-esque. The costumes, amazing. The like slightly feminist Cinderella. Oh, there's a scene, you'll know.
Yeah.
But
It's
yeah,
just
but Melanie's in it.
yes. And the reason that I think that we should talk about that is because of the fact that Melanie Linsky has been marketed as like a fat friend
Yep.
ever since she's joined the game.
Hmm.
And she's not
She's
like
not.
not a fat actress. She is what is a stereotypical average size
Hmm.
for a woman. And the career resurgence that she's having right now, she's actually talked about it a lot uh,
Hmm.
recently, because there was a situation where I believe it was on Yellow Jackets where somebody made a comment about her size, and Melanie is a star of
Yeah.
Yellow Jackets. And it actually is a plot point that she like, about her sexuality, is actually a plot point in the series, which
Hmm.
I love Yellow Jackets. It's not for everybody,
I
just
haven't
an
watched it yet. We just got HBO back, so it's on my list.
it is on
Oh,
Showtime.
Showtime. Well, we have Showtime. Just kidding.
Okay,
Well,
yeah, it's on
yeah,
Showtime.
we have it.
Yeah, it's there's like some trigger warnings for
Yeah.
people, but if I can watch it, most people can watch it because I'm not a blood gore spooky
Hmm.
person at all, and it is my favorite TV show. And so, to watch this and be like reminded again of like she's probably casted because she's not Kate Walsh then, which by the way, we haven't even talked about Kate Walsh, but I actually think she's great, and I wish she had more in this movie.
I think, yeah, exactly. Both the parents, I think, did a great
Yeah.
job for literally no lines.
Yeah.
Like, especially at the hospitals when they come in to see Charlie at the hospital and the dad comes over and kisses his forehead,
Tender.
like
So
crying. So good. Apparently, that was something that Logan Lerman and I forget the actor who played the dad thought of themselves, and they were like, "Yeah,
something
go for it."
it's Dylan McDermott.
Yeah. The last scene of the movie is Sam and Patrick and Charlie in the truck listening to Heroes going through the tunnel, but this time Charlie's in the back. And I really like this because like it just like sparked the English major in me. I was like, Charlie's sitting in the back, so he's like not doing the whole like spread eagle arm thing yet. He's looking literally still looking in the past. Then we have Sam. I don't like the kiss, but whatever. Sam gets his attention literally to be in the present for that second with that kiss. She could have done it a different way, but like it was a kiss, whatever. So he's in the present, and then he ends up standing up to look to the future as they go through. And I just like, I think it's such a good ending.
Yeah.
And
I think
like,
you should end it in Movieville. Of this is definitely with him doing the tunnel.
Yes, it's so good, The Tunnel. And that's how it ends, and I loved it. I have a list. I watched all the deleted scenes. There was like almost 15 deleted scenes.
I just feel like maybe 3 to 5 could have been in because it is just a short movie, and
Yes.
I love short movies. Like,
Mm-hmm.
anyone who knows me knows that I like can barely handle a 2.5. My ADHD is just like, no, I want you want to leave. Like, you can't pay attention. What time is it? And so
So the first scene actually plays on something that you already talked about or wanting, and that it was an alt opening of them at the hospital. And it's a video from Charlie's POV. So like the camera is his head. And we see his family coming and checking in on him, the doctor. And then it's him looking at the typewriter, that's in the hospital room, looking at the clock that Patrick gives him, that's also in the hospital room. And then it flashes back to Aunt Helen and his siblings being happy on a swing set. And that's like the alt opening. And then and it flashes forward to him in his room where it starts. I love the opening credits of the city because I feel like it sets the vibe of it all. But so it's like, do we want vibe opening or do we want backstory that adds some like meat and potatoes to it? Yeah, I like the vibe more.
I like the vibe.
Yeah. Then we have another extended scene essentially of Susan refusing to let Charlie sit with her in front of people. Then we get a memory of Michael. And it's like a very wild flashback memory where it's when Charlie is reading To Kill a Mockingbird, and then he gets interrupted by someone, and in that same room it's his friend Michael playing with the stereo. Michael's played by Nat Wolff.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's Michael asking Charlie, presumably in the eighth grade year, if he should ask Susan out. I think it would have been a sweet little bit, but like also I don't think it would have added crazy much because they did not put too much emphasis on Michael in general. Like it's one conversation and that's it, you know?
Yeah.
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 Then we have an extended best milkshake scene where it's just literally Charlie talking about the milkshake for an extra 3 seconds. Um, Charlie getting home from Secret Santa for an extra 5 seconds, and his mom seeing him happy and like almost crying, which was sweet, but like also unnecessary, I think.
Yeah.
We have a Christmas Eve chat between Charlie and his mom, and Charlie tells his mom, "I'm sorry you lost your sister, mom," which is a really like sweet little moment. There's an extended scene with his brother talking to him at Christmas, and we get the background that in this version his of the story, his dad was a really good hockey player and almost went professional, except for his mom got pregnant, which is why he didn't play hockey outside of college. And that the first thing he's going to do is he's going to pay off the house for his dad with the money if he gets to go play for the Steelers. Like, so it's like we get more of the background of the family from there, which would have been nice, but also would have felt weird because that's the only time they talk about it, you know?
Yeah.
We get the new extended New Year's Day of the cops interrogating Charlie, finding him in the snow. A scene where it's after Charlie calls Mary Elizabeth trying to apologize. Charlie asks Candace, his sister, to eat with her, but she walks away. But then it becomes flustered and then comes back to let him sit with her. And then it flashes back to when they're kids and Candace is painting Charlie's nails. And Charlie, as a little kid, says, "I'm going to get in trouble." And his sister says, "I'll protect you." And I was like, this is super sweet. And
Yeah.
then that blends into a scene where she tells Charlie that she's pregnant and she has a doctor's appointment. And then and it's a really like good amount of scenes. It probably takes like with that whole bit of him asking her to sit with him, and the flashback with them when they're little up to them going to the abortion clinic. It's like almost 10 minutes, but they took it out. But it's like really good. Like he sits there, she goes in, he gets kind of flustered being in the hospital environment with like some flashbacks to a hospital, which would have been good, right? Because then we would get more
Yeah.
information about him being in the hospital. So he goes out and hangs out in the car until she comes out, and she's like gone through an abortion. We don't get like an abortion clinic sign, but we do get a doctor with gynecology sign. So like it's not officially like labeled as an abortion, but like all the context clues are there.
Yeah.
But it's a really sweet scene of them talking with the blankets, and then also them going home and lying together to their parents. We get that scene, and it's very sweet. When Charlie's leaving the hospital, his mom and him get ice cream and talk about how when they used to go to the hospital, they would get ice cream together. And then the last one is Charlie reading the poem at Secret Santa, which I'm personally glad they took out.
Me too.
Yeah. Before I go into like my thoughts about the commentary part watching of this, my thought rewatching the movie when I rewatched it the other day is I think the Sam character of it all such a letdown because I don't remember caring that much that they changed it. I loved the movie when it came out. I bought it probably for $5 at Walmart. You know,
Me and Target for sure.
yeah. And I loved it. And a lot of that probably had to do with that I was 18, didn't understand a lot of the context in my little world, the Tumblr of it all, right?
Mhm.
But rewatching it, I loved the movie with the caveats of the Sam and Patrick of it all. I think I gave it like a 4 stars on Letterboxd. Last time I had watched it, I gave it 4.5 stars, and I was like, no, that accent needs to take it down. I think it's not as good as the book.
Definitely not.
Not as
I
good as the book.
understand. Like I said, I understand why people will say they like the movie over the book, but I am not one.
I think part of it probably because a lot of it is because it's easier to digest than the book.
Yeah, it's way lighter.
Definitely. With still like being pretty real about real topics. Like I think they could have obviously done better at certain ones, but for a PG-13 movie, I think they do a decent job. I love the movie specifically because it has like the music is great. I love the cinematography throughout, the way that they made it look like an older movie without it actually being an older movie.
Yeah.
I loved Logan Lerman throughout the whole thing, the whole time. But I also, again, am biased because I love him.
Yeah.
But
Lerman
also,
lovers.
yeah, Logan Lerman lovers, which is really hard to say. I don't think it's a perfect movie, and I think they could have done better adapting a lot of it.
Yeah.
But I still think it's a good adaptation.
I'm probably so I did not log this when I saw it. Probably because I had a letterbox, but I didn't log anything that I'd already seen before until like the pandemic, where I was rewatching things and I
Mm-hmm.
was like, okay, that's silly. So I imagine when I 2017 rating it, I probably would have given it 4 to 4.5 stars. I will probably still give it 4 stars. For because I'm as critical as I can be, I'm definitely a nostalgia person. So
Same.
I always feel bad knocking down movies that I used to really like. And I think that my biggest problem right now of why I would go down to a 3.5 is just because I read the book right before it.
Yeah. And I think that's fair.
Yeah, you can tell, like you see it. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think that a redo of this could end up in my top 10 favorite movies of all time.
Yeah. I think it's definitely a contender. Like it's bouncing in and out probably of my top 10,
Yeah.
depending on what I've watched recently. I will say the commentary, the Chbosky commentary, if you are a fan of movies, of writing, of the creative like process, you should watch the commentary on because even though he does have bits where he likes actors that we don't like anymore, it was recorded in 2012. So like it
Yeah.
is he's forgiven for liking the person at that point.
Yeah.
You know?
Pretty much
But
everything. So
yeah, yeah. The way he talks about not just like the characters, but the process of making this movie is so it was like I cried twice,
I feel like
like
it's just
teared up twice
so
listening to him.
like it's just this
Like,
is this is a person talking about
mhm.
how they made something that they originally inserted themselves into and how and being able to actually actualize that.
Yeah, and he talks a lot about how he knew that he would never be able to write the book into a movie, and that he tried not to make this movie exactly like the book. Instead, he wanted to change it to their version of the story. So, like, he acknowledges a lot of the changes they did make will change a lot of the themes and the lessons, etc. He talks he did at the very end say, he goes, throughout the years, the biggest question I've gotten from readers is who is the dear friend that Charlie is writing to, and he says, I will never tell anyone who the dear
Oh,
friend is in the book, but in the movie version, the dear friend is you, the audience, because that is who this movie is, a love letter from me to my audience and a thank you letter to them. And it was like, it was a very good commentary, like
that sounds
top
great.
notch. Yeah. Um, but most of the fun facts from the commentary I like threw in here. And a lot of it is just like I went back to Pittsburgh and I got all of my favorite places from my hometown and home neighborhoods to be in a movie. And I'm gonna tell you these random little stories about it. And I was like, this is adorable.
I eat that up.
Yes. Yeah. So I think me watching the commentary made me like the movie more, which is good. I was a
I
little
just
bit scared it wouldn't.
I am just really excited. Like I told friends and stuff that I'm doing this and like I'm
Hmm.
excited for them to hear it and I would be so excited to hear them like read the book or watch the movie
Yes.
and give me their thoughts on it just because I have a personal connection and
Hmm.
also because this is a movie that's not necessarily a product of its time to me because I do have that
Hmm.
relationship and so yeah, I'm so glad we did this.
I'm
This is
I
wonderful.
had a blast. And I so like, oh yeah, the question I kind of already answered it, my thoughts, but is this a good adaptation? I ask everyone this.
I would say, yeah, generally. I
Yeah.
mean, the things that my problems with are almost entirely casting or things left out.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I would say that it's not like what's in so bad that it's a bad adaptation, it's just it's a movie with flaws. And I would say that Steven did a really great job for adapting a movie that's only internal.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Cool. Thank you everyone for listening. Make sure you're following us on Instagram at Read the Book First Podcast. All the updates of everything will be on there. Also the schedule of episodes, etc. Rate us 5 stars or don't rate us at all, please and thank you. If you want to request books and movies or TV shows, etc. to watch, DM me on Instagram. That's where you can get your thoughts in. Thank you, Sam, again for doing this. This is so much fun. Don't forget, read the book first.